Welcome to Bear and Balanced. I'm Jeff Burkus. On the other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, we have been doing this podcast for a few minutes now, and we still have not been able to cover a Chicago Bears victory over the Green Bay Packers because that losing streak extended to 11 games yesterday. How'd you take it?
Yeah, I was expecting a loss. I mean, going in, I'm like, yeah, this ain't going to happen. I mean, the Bears, prior to, during the whole 10-game losing streak, they had lost by an average of like 12 points a game. That's just kind of what they do. This era here is bad for Chicago. They've been getting beat by double digits. Like, there's no way they can hang with the Packers. The Packers are too good. Bears are reeling. Not going to happen. Then, of course, close game, tight game, come down to the final seconds, and it hurt. But the more I kind of reflect, I'm like, well, I wasn't expecting to win anyway. But man, I want to see a Packers win here by the beloved. It's got to happen at some point. We have to talk about a Bears over Packers once before we retire the show, right?
Yeah, it has to happen. Hopefully, we got one more chance at it this season. So, it was a weird game. We've got a lot to get into. There was some interesting things that happened. Sometimes when you fire a coach or a coordinator, you get a bounce. I do think the Bears got a little bit of that. Certainly on offense, they looked a lot better than they have recently. So we'll be able to talk a little bit about that. But first, of course, in this show, we start in the trenches. Trench tribute this week. A couple options for you. Who you got?
I'm rewatching the game, and the O line was better than in the past. The D line, I thought the D line was pretty bad early, but then as I'm rewatching, I'm like, they had some nice plays as they went on. I mean, they only gave up like 105 yards rushing. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So I'm like, this ain't bad, but I'm gonna go back to the O line. And he just came back from his injury. I'm gonna go left tackle Braxton Jones. Look, he had the fantastic pancake block, right? And then late in the game, he gave up a bull rush and he gave up a sack. And then Bears fans, of course, were all over social media, complaining about Braxton Jones, complaining about his anchor. Look, by now we know who he is. He's worked on it. It's gotten better. Rashawn Gary's a pretty powerful defensive end. That's his move. He got a bull rush. It's one of the things that's in his repertoire. He's good at it. Braxton Jones had a very, very good game. He gave up a sack. Okay. There was a play early on. He gave us some edge pressure. But other than that, he had a pretty clean game. So, look, I got to give it to Braxton Jones. Coming back off the injury, he did what he had to do, and he played pretty good.
Yeah, that was the one name that I wrote down that I wanted to make sure. I thought that was kind of the easy one to talk about, but definitely want to talk about that. I was watching the game with our friend Ross Reed here in Chicago, and we were talking through the game. And at one point, Ross said something like, we need to get some offensive linemen out on the move, like some screen work, right? We need to get something like this. And I was like, well, the only guy that I really trust in space is Braxton Jones. And I swear, 2 minutes later, the big play where he just flattened somebody and he looked back. And I was trying to tell, was it one of those things where he looked back like, yeah, was it that, or was he looking for another block? I'm not sure, but I like to imagine that he was sort of celebrating a little bit that he bowled that guy over. I saw that. I recognized that. That was kind of a fun move. Good to have the tackles back.
Yeah.
Very different ball game with having two starting caliber tackles back in the lineup. Last week was rough without those two guys. So really nice to see those guys back. And Braxton certainly gets a good trench tribute here. I was actually going to ask you a question without looking. How many yards per carry do you think Josh Jacobs averaged yesterday?
I think it was 4.2.
Okay, so you did look.
Because I recently looked, yeah.
So before I looked, I thought, man, I bet you Josh Jacobs had 7 yards a carry.
Same. I was the same way, yeah.
I thought he was really had a good game. He had a lot of good, powerful runs. Seemed like he was just dragging people. And then I look and I'm like, 18 carries for 76 yards, 4.2 average. That's not that great. And so, yes, there were some big runs. That's not good. Again, you have more. He would have needed 24 carries to get over 100 yards. This wasn't a bad overall effort from the line. So they really did tighten up that defensive line, that run, the run defense there. So that was good. There's some other stuff that we'll get into. So a little bit of a shout out to the defensive line for figuring it out, and responding and tightening things up a little bit there. So those are our trench tributes today. Let's just keep rolling
Did you
on.
also
We're
have Big
rolling on.
Braxton Jones there for you?
Yeah, I had Braxton. I definitely wanted to make sure we highlighted Braxton, but just both having both tackles back, I think was huge.
It was, yeah.
And huge for what the Thomas Brown wanted to do. Again, we'll get into Thomas Brown here, but huge for what he wanted to do here. But let's get into the sweet tweets portion of the program. Twitter, we go on Twitter so that you don't have to.
Yeah.
My tweet this week is from Kevin Fishbane. He's at KFishbane. He says, since 1940, the Bears are now 101 wins, 24 losses, and 2 ties when they have no turnovers on offense and have a takeaway on defense. That's per stat head. 3 of those 24 losses have come in the last 3 weeks. Lester, that is ridiculous. So that's 101 wins, 24 losses. 3 of those losses have come in the last 3 consecutive weeks. That is insane. It's a hard thing to do, and you've done it 3 weeks in a row.
I did not see this tweet, or I would have probably.
Isn't this amazing?
I would have highlighted that. That is fantastic stat. That is ridiculous. I know Kevin Fishbane has been a very popular tweeter. He does a lot of cool statistical nuggets. This is terrible. That falls on coaching. I mean, that's a brutal one there.
So I want to spend some time on this because you and I have been going back and forth with our friend Bill Zimmerman. Bill brought it up last week, and there's this philosophy from Coach Flus that started with Justin Fields, where he said, "I want you to be in the 200 club or the 200 level or whatever he called it," and he was basically saying he wanted 2 touchdown passes or 2 touchdowns, I guess, but 2 touchdown passes, no turnovers, and no sacks. He wanted a 200 level performance. And as we were talking about it, we know that sometimes you have to be aggressive and sometimes the defense gets lucky. And we know that in the modern game, you have to go out and get points, like you have to go out and score. We also know that there are times when the play breaks down and the smart thing is to take a sack. You do sack watch. Sometimes those plays are smart. A lot of times they're not. A lot of times you got to get rid of it. A lot of times you got, but sometimes you got to eat it. Right. And so we were talking that it shouldn't be 200 club. It should be Chicago's area code, the 312.
Yeah.
And that's really what Caleb should be shooting for, because he needs to be. If you watched those games last night, the afternoon game between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and then you watch the night game between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, you got to watch 4 of the, 6 top quarterbacks in the league. Those guys are all awesome. They're awesome to watch. They're great for different reasons, but they keep firing. And that is what you have in potential in Caleb Williams. You have to let this guy fire. Josh Allen threw one of the dumbest picks that I have seen last night. Josh Allen could win MVP. Did they just go into a shell after Josh made a mistake and say, well, I don't want him to throw another interception? And that would be bad. You have to let these guys create. You have to let these guys loose. That's what's happening. Now you say, well, Flus is a defensive conservative coordinator. What's Sean McDermott?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Give me a break. Some of these guys can adapt and they can let their guys be playmakers. So I think that screw 200 level, 200 club, whatever the hell he called it, that we needed to go with a 3-1-2.
Yeah, you hit it on. I mean, it's especially as a rookie feeling out what you can do and what you can't do in the NFL level. You got to let Caleb rip it sometimes. And look, he's going to throw some stupid interceptions, but sometimes he'll be like, that's a play I can't do at this level. He has to learn this. He has to learn these things. He has to learn when those windows close and when those passing lanes are not there anymore. He has to learn these things. And it seems like a lot of the aggressiveness has been coached out of him, obviously. We've seen that happen. We saw it with Justin Fields. We saw it happen there as well. It's happening here with Caleb. He's really safe with the ball, which no picks in 3 weeks now, 4 weeks now?
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Okay. But, how many times did the Bears leave points on the field or on the ball there because he was not taking a chance that he should take normally? I think at some point they've got to find that level, and it's never going to happen with Eberflus.
You're not going to find, you can go through the history of the NFL, every game a quarterback has ever played, and you can find some games where you're like, this was basically a perfect performance. Cool. You can't get that week after week. It's just not happening.
No.
The players are too fast. They're too good. The defensive coordinators are too smart. They're going to win sometimes. Those other guys get paid too. So the idea that you are trying to put something on a young player, any player, honestly, but a young player and say, absolutely no turnovers ever, don't ever take us, like, just this standard that you're trying to push that really does take that aggression out. And I think you could see it. And I was getting a little irritated with some of these talking heads. I try not to let that impact me too much, right? And especially guys like a Chris Sims last night, where it sounded like he was scolding Caleb on the NBC. I don't know if you saw that, where he's like, "Stop being greedy." That he was doing a better job of not being greedy. I'm like, get out of here, Kristen. Like, what are you talking about, right? This was a very different game plan. He was using the wide receivers in a good way, but they're just, this is the type of line that Coach Flus wants, and he can't win the game based on his own decisions. When he does get in a game like this, this is the kind of game he wants. He wants to win a game. What it would have been 22-20.
Yeah.
That's a Flus game. He wants that, right? Like he would really love to be able to win a game like that.
I talked about it in our keys to the game. We did a roundtable article, and that was what I said. I said, unfortunately, it's probably going to be a run heavy game plan. Flus will try and keep it close. He'll preach, be safe with the football, check it down, run when you can. And that's what I expected Flus to do, because that's how he wants to play, and sometimes that's a smart thing to do if you're going against a really high power team. But look, the Packers, even though they're better than the Bears, they're not the Lions, right? So, I can understand wanting to keep the ball away from that offense. But the Packers offense, I mean, Jordan Love, he leads the league in turnovers, and he threw one in the red zone on Sunday. So,
and Lester, he's not great against the blitz. How many times did the Bears blitz on Sunday?
That was a 3
times.
Terrible.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Like, where's the self-scouting?
Flus is such a good defensive coordinator. You got to give him credit for that. I'm not sure we do, Lester. Yeah. I'm not sure we have to give him credit for that.
That ship sailed with us. I mean, we kind of saw through that. I had a tweet yesterday where I was like, he's just a fraud. I mean, it's like he's a bum slayer. Like when he has to come up big as a defensive play caller, he doesn't get it done. He only beats teams that suck, pretty much. I mean,
pretty much. Yep. Yeah, the Lions win. That's about it. Saved his job last year. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? I think his job was already safe. All right, let's go on to yours. What was your tweet?
So mine is from Hayden Winks. He is at Hayden Winks. I'm gonna actually throw it up on a slide here because it's a lot of stuff here. But he references the Bears changes under offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, and he talks about EPA, which is an efficiency metric here. Caleb had 4 design runs, which gave the Bears a +5 EPA. Caleb was more decisive as a scrambler, another +5 for EPA. DJ Moore had 5 screens called for him in the game, +2 EPA. Roshan used at the goal line was a +2. Swift had 9 carries to the outside, +2 EPA. And the Bears offensive line had the second best pressure rate of the season. So overall, Thomas Brown, he got the job done as a play caller. I thought his schemes were tight. I mean, there was a lot more motion we saw. I mean, what we saw against the Packers looked more like the McVay stuff we see with the Rams, which is what Flus wanted. He wants the Shanahan, the McVay. He wants that offense. He didn't get it with Getsy. He really didn't get it with Waldron. Maybe he finally found this guy in Thomas Brown, but it's the third time's a charm. But unfortunately, it should be too late, because even if Brown just takes off and has a fantastic final 7 games, it can't save Flus.
Lester, I sure hope
it can't save Flus.
I sure hope not. We had that conversation last year. We were talking about, he's got multiple years left on the deal. That was when we thought there was 4 years on the deal, and then we found out it was actually a 5-year deal. He's only in year 3. Yes, I think that he should be gone. I think he's done enough, but we were in a moment last year where, we certainly felt that way. But we were also pretty worried that George McCaskey was going to keep him on. Yeah. So until we get a tweet from Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, I'm going to, continue to keep my fingers crossed, and I'm going to continue to do what I can in my little universe and make sure that when mistakes are made, we continue to highlight them because that you can't run a professional football team this way. There's the wins are too valuable, and you keep giving them away, and that's the reality. Yes, all overall, the tweet was about Thomas Brown. It seemed like he was running the offense like we expected the offense to be run from the start, using the pieces in a way that made sense, and so showing that positive expected points added across the board means that he has a pretty good understanding of what can and can't be done with these players in this scheme and calling them in a way that makes sense. Like that's all you can really ask an offense coordinator to do
Yeah.
is, are you lining up correctly? Are you mixing things up? Are you predictable or unpredictable? Right? Did the defense look at, oh, they're in this formation, they're going to run that play. Like that happened with Waldron. Like that people had it all figured out. So and then the stuff wasn't very hard to block because there wasn't any or a guard, I should say. There wasn't any hots. There wasn't, it's just nothing really was modern about it. It felt like 1960s offenses. Like, I mean, it was weird. It was a weird thing that was happening there. All right, let's get into Caleb's corner. We've already hinted at it a little bit. Let's talk about the stat line. 23 of 31, 231 yards. Again, no interceptions and no touchdowns. Another 0-0 there. Was sacked 3 times for 19 yards. And I will say that one sack was an unblocked pressure on a play action fake. Maybe that was his fault to run the play. I think Brady said something like that might be a play that you don't always run. Like you should be able to see that has a good chance of being an unblocked pressure, and maybe you don't run that. And then the 2 sacks that came on the final drive, one was he couldn't get back to the line of scrimmage when he's trying to scramble up, and then that bull rush from Gary that you mentioned. Those were the 3 sacks there. Lost 19 yards, but made up for those 2 sacks with some amazing sequences back in that final drive there. Ran the ball 9 times for 70 yards, which is something that we just really have not seen consistently out of Caleb, but I thought that was really impressive. What did you take from his performance?
He was very decisive. That's one thing. I mean, the ball was coming out quick. I saw the time to throw was like, I think it was either his best or second best time to throw on the year so far. The ball was coming out quick. There were some things schemed up that were there out for him right away. Like, the screen game I thought was really nice, the way it was designed. More from condensed formations, like those bubbles way out on the perimeter. Those you're really relying on the receivers to get a block. The stuff that are tighter in when it's come in tighter, now you can get your lineman pulling. That matters. You have more bodies in front of you. You're not just relying on one missed block and it's over. So I thought those were well-designed plays. Just everything from him. And then of course, the last sequence, right? Those last few plays. I mean, that is the Caleb Williams the Bears drafted. That is the Caleb Williams that's on all the highlight reels. That third down play where he kind of scrambled. He ducked a sack. Went to the sideline, made a great play to Rome. Then of course, the back shoulder throw to Rome on 4th down, 21 yards. I mean, that play took balls to even throw that, and he just trusted his guy. He saw one-on-one. He knew he had room on the sideline to make it a back shoulder throw. He did it. Then he comes back with the next play. He hit Keenan Allen. And that sequence was beautiful. The fact that they said, okay, Flus said, okay, that's enough. We're close enough now. Let's just scale it back and let's just run this down and let's just kick the field goal. It didn't sit well with me in the moment. I know a lot of people say, oh, if they block that field goal, no one cares. I was pissed in the moment. I understood the philosophy of it, why he was doing it. But I also man, this is the Packers. As Bears fans, we've seen this story before. We've seen Trestman try a field goal on 2nd down like a dumbass. We've seen Matt Nagy do something similar during his era. We've seen this happen. Let's get as close as possible. There's 35 seconds left. You have a timeout. Let Caleb play some football.
I was in Minnesota at that game for the Trestman kicks on 2nd down, by the way. So that one hurts extra much for me. Yeah, it was kind of like, Steph Curry comes down. Did you watch the Olympics?
Yeah.
and how Steph Curry just kind of took over that game. It was like she just kept shooting and just everything was just going in right at the end, and they pulled out the gold medal. It would be like, all right, Steph, you've hit 3 in a row, but on this next trip down the court, just dribble around and try to run into the corner, and we don't want you to shoot again. We know you're hot right now, but
Yeah.
let's just settle you down here a little bit. Please don't shoot again. Like Caleb was feeling it, and sometimes shooters got to shoot, right? And I know, someone's gonna say, yeah, hey, that field goal goes in. You don't talk about it. It's one of those things, but in the moment, you're like, what are we doing? Why aren't we getting a little closer? I mean, even if it's the process, and sometimes that's frustrating for people to hear, because we'll see it, sometimes we'll talk about it, we'll call it out. I think we're pretty consistent about that, and be like, oh, you guys, who cares, right? But that's why we talk about this stuff. That's why we talk about bad challenges. Like, okay, well, you burned a timeout here, and then at the end of the game you didn't have it, right? And so when I call out a bad challenge when it happens during the game, and then later on you don't have that timeout, or you don't have that second challenge, or the third challenge that you could use, that's because, like, Jim, okay, for a non-Bears example, Jim Harbaugh last night,
Yes.
second play. Jim Harbaugh is a good football coach, right? We like Jim Harbaugh around here. We would have loved to have covered a Jim Harbaugh, coaching at the Chicago Bears, because he's a content creator's dream, right? Second play of the game, it's 2nd and 5, and Joe Burrow completes an 8-yard pass. Okay, so it's a first down. So it is a second down play for 8 yards, and it didn't look like the guy dragged his second foot. But then on the replay, you did see a couple of those, like, rubber, chips bounce out.
Pellets, yeah.
Right. So on replay, you see it a couple times. Oh, I see the pellets. Yeah, it's a catch. What are you doing, Jim Harbaugh? Like, that challenge doesn't do you. Just move on. There's 14 and a half minutes left in the first quarter of a game that's probably going to be a pretty competitive game, and you just burn a challenge. Now, you may later on, need that timeout at the end of the first half, or you may need that a third challenge, which, if you get one of those wrong, you don't have that available to you, right? And for what? Then it would have been 3rd and 5 in the first quarter, as opposed to 1st and 10 from the 40-yard. Like, who cares? Like, there's no value there, right? So I called it out in the moment. I don't, it's just, you see these bad, dumb ideas. That's why we do that. But they just seem to come back and haunt Flus every single time. Like, he does not get away with them very often. So that's why we talk about them all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like these you need an assistant coach on your staff. That's it. That's his job, is to calculate the yards expectancy, all that kind of stuff that goes into, what you should challenge or not. Kind of like how they have a get back coach, who's a guy that just, he had a standard, he's in charge to make sure you don't go on the field and get a penalty. Just get a instant replay coach. Well, that's your job. So if you try and say, I'm gonna challenge this play here on 2nd and 2 and in the first quarter, no, there's no point in doing that. Let's just kind of scale that back. But yeah, I mean, speaking of Harbaugh, he also had that nice play at the end where he had a similar situation where he ran the ball. Now, of course, the run he did went for a touchdown, and it helped seal the game. But he very easily could have said, hey, Herbert, take the snap, move over to get the ball centered for our kicker Dicker, and then I'm going to take a knee here and just let's kick the field goal. He didn't do that. He kept playing football, right?
Yeah,
that's what you do.
The NFL script writers introducing a character named Dicker the kicker is just a little bit too on the nose. Like, I think we're jumping the shark here in the 2024 season with that one. All right. Overall, a lot of positives here. Let's get into caught up in a numbers game and let's get back to negatives. My number here is 5-17. That is the record of one Mr. Coach Eberflus in one score football games. Yeah. And of active coaches, oh boy, he breaks the scale. Like, no one is anywhere close to Matt Eberflus in terms of winning percentage, in terms of one score games. Good coaching wins one score games. Like, you see some of these really good coaches, they're pretty high up on that list. And these are the little things that keep haunting him. Are the things like what happened yesterday of, hey, maybe get it a little closer. Hey, maybe use the full time and timeouts that you had at your disposal to try to get your kicker in the best position possible.
It was such a strange scenario, the whole thing there, where he just was content, and the one score games. Like, there is a ton of stuff on social media from content creators floating around now. Like you mentioned that graph, like I saw the number first. I'm like, wow, that's terrible, right? Five and what was five? What was it? 5-14, 5-17. Then I saw the graph showing with the other coaches, and I'm like, oh my god, he is like nowhere near the scale. It's like the slope on that was like ridiculous, and that's coaching. I mean, it's all coaching. It's him, because he coaches scared half the time, probably more than half the time. That's what he is. I mean, it seems like the Bears are pretty good in the middle, in the second and third quarters. First quarter, they're very conservative. Fourth quarter, they're very conservative. Man, let your players play football, especially with a guy like Caleb. Man, let him rip it. You know what I mean?
The number of stunning stats and ineptitude with Matt Eberflus.
There's so many.
There's so many, and it's just all around. And I think it's the style, the conservative philosophy, whatever. It just doesn't work with the rule set and with the athletes in today's NFL. I think that's really what it comes down to, is that maybe that could have grinded out a lot of wins in the 70s, but it just doesn't work now. Like, it just, the rules are too friendly for high level quarterback play and attacking the middle of the field and all these things. And you got to score points. Like, you're not going to win a lot of games by trying to defang your own offense to benefit your defense. And I feel like that's what a lot of it is. And it's just not working, man. 5-17 ain't it.
9 blown fourth quarter leads in his Bears coaching career too.
Ooh,
just awful. Flus, there's so much bad, and Ryan Poles sticks with him, and we got to hope that this is the year where he realizes that it's over, because it is over.
What about you? What do you got?
I hate to keep harping on this last second play, but so at his press conference, Flus talked about how he was basically afraid, right? He was afraid of a fumble or a false start, right? He was afraid of that happening. He's afraid of his team that is his philosophy, that are like, culture. He's afraid of this team is going to screw up. So Get Up is a program, the NFL program. They sent this graphic out. 0.46%. That is my number, and that is the percentage of fumbles lost this year. 0.46% of the time a running back or a quarterback or receiver has the ball, he fumbles. That is ridiculous. Cairo Santos, in his last 70 kicks, 40 yards or closer, 70 for 70, 100%. Right?
Pretty good.
Where he did kick it from, again, that's a makeable field goal for Santos.
Sure.
It sucks that it got blocked. It's makeable, but that's a 76% chance. But the chance of a fumble happening there, 0.46%, because Flus is coaching scared. The fact that he said that, if I was a player for him, like, dude, what are you doing, man? I mean, if that's really your reasoning, that's BS. I mean, that you're basically saying that you don't trust us to get the job done. And that's unacceptable from a head coach to say that. But I mean, how often does Flus say something that's just so out of touch and so tone deaf with, because he doesn't, he did get a PR coaching at some point because he's better than what he was, but he still says a bunch of stupid stuff all the time.
So it's really easy to sit here. Like, I can see somebody criticizing this conversation right here and saying, well, what if they did put the ball in the air and there was an interception? What if they did run the ball and there was a fumble? What if whatever? And he comes out and he says, listen, I'm trying to win the football game. I'm using every second on the clock and every timeout at my disposal to get as close as I can to increase the odds of the field goal going in, or for us to score a touchdown. I'm trying to win this football game. You play to win the game. I'm doing everything I can. I trust my players to go make football plays. Sometimes things like that happen, right? Would you rather have that, Or would you rather hear,
Yeah.
we were worried about a penalty that would knock us back, or we were worried about a turnover, or we were worried about a tackle for loss, or a fumble, or a sack, or whatever. All these negative things that can happen, right? What's the old quote? Every time you pass the ball,
Yeah.
only three things can happen, and two of them are bad. This is what you get. This is what you get with the conservative, defensive-minded head coach, and I would much rather hear a coach come out and just be like, "I believe in my guys, and you know what? You give me that chance again, I'm going to keep letting them fire because that's what it is." Now, if we were sitting here and it happened, and the opposite scenario came up, and we were calling it out, then you could criticize us and you could say, "Hey, but you said," right? I just I believe this is how I believe football should be played in the modern NFL. I believe you should be aggressive because that's the only way you're going to win football games. I like going for the kill shot. I have been very consistent and vocal when I watch football games and I see a coach, go for it on 4th and 1, like around the 40-yard line, to try to, kill a game, as opposed to giving it back to Patrick Mahomes or giving it back to, whoever they're playing. I like that. Like, just take it out, take the question out. Just do it. Let Josh Allen make a play. Let Justin Herbert make a play. Let Caleb Williams make a play. That's where you have to get to, because that's the kind of caliber guy he is. So let him make a play. Use all the seconds you have left.
He was begging Flus to go for that 4th down in the first half. Like,
Yeah.
you heard him on the TV screaming.
Yeah.
And
They had him up.
Yeah, the people I know that were there at the game, they said the same thing. It just, the stadium felt it. I mean, they saw it, they felt it, the energy was there. The fact that Flus finally said, "Fine, go ahead and go for it." I thought they should have went for it in the fourth quarter there. The last punt they had, Troy Taylor, it was like a 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Caleb just made a nice play. I think it was to Rome again. It came up a little short, but like, they're there. He's cooking. He's moving the ball. Go make a play. I mean, the punt, it ended up being a pretty decent punt, but still, it was like, you know what? At that point, from the midfield there, go for the kill shot.
Go for the kill shot. That's my thing. We're going to take a quick break, but before that, we're going to hear from our friends at Underdog.
Underdog Fantasy. What is Underdog? Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won. Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower or 2 or more player stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. Caleb's back hot again, so I think I'm going to have to go back to my Caleb hires. So we think he's going to go higher than 200 yards next week, which I think would make him the Bears all-time rookie record holder. He's close. He's close to Mitch's record now. I'm not sure how close he is. He's pretty close there, but I think he's on the way here. Then cook up some entries for a shot to win some real cash prizes all football season long. Underdog is the best place to play champions. So sign up and deposit now using our promo code CITY for $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. You can also play Red Zone Rush, which is a game you won't find anywhere else. Just pick whether or not a player will score a touchdown by swiping left or right, for left or no. Simple as that. Plus, your entry is automatically boosted to a 51% profit boost when you play it. Underdog is fun and simple. And this week, like I said, Caleb. I'm going Caleb. And I like Swift. I think with Thomas Brown as the OC, he's going to commit to that run. Swift's going to break one. We saw him do it yesterday. He's due. He seems like he's due every week, where like he gets one and he pops it. So I'm going higher on Caleb and on Swift again this week. But you can win 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower, like I said. Passing yards and interceptions, touchdowns, and so much more. So download the app today. Use our code CITY. Again, that's CITY. $1,000 bonus cash instantly. It's that easy. Get the app. Our promo code CITY. $1,000. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog. And now the fun stuff. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus, Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. Void in Colorado. Concern with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369.
You did it. Quick break.
Got through
We'll
it
be back
again.
on the other side. All right, guys, we're back. Let's talk three bears here. Hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Hot bowl of porridge, where are you going?
I'm going to go Rome Odunze.
Okay.
And look, his stat line was nice. All right. 10 targets, 6 catches, 65 yards. But I'm watching the game. And his blocking, did I just not was I not aware he was a good blocker?
He's a good blocker.
He is a damn good blocker. There were so many times where his block was the one that keyed it for extra yards. I talk about the Braxton Jones pancake. He was also on that edge. Him and Cole Kmet had their guy sealed, and that gave the Swift a chance to go around it. It gave Braxton Jones a lane to go around and pancake his guy. Rome Odunze was blocking his butt off several times. He just popped out on the film watching it. I just must not have realized that was his game. He is a damn good blocker.
Rome's my guy.
That's your guy.
Rome's my guy. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the package. That's part of what we expected out of Rome, and very unselfish player. A guy that it seems very much like in on the team stuff. We're starting to see more targets going his way. I expect that to happen a little bit more, continue to be the case, right? I think he's now kind of solidified himself in that number one role with DJ, and Thomas More seems to know how to use those two guys. They were running routes that seem more suited to their skill sets. It's just all we've asked for.
Yes.
So this is fun. This is fun. This is what we want to see out of the offense. I had the one that's tongue in cheek. I had Swift's stop motion.
Oh, man. Yeah.
How funny was that? Where he was clearly false start, but he just stopped. And then the ball was snapped, and Caleb pitches it, and he still hasn't moved because he's expecting the penalty to come. And then he's got to one hand the pitch, and then he runs the ball, and everybody's just kind of looking well, clearly what happened? Total miscall. I don't know that was. I mean, it was like a 3-yard gain. I think he turned it into a 3-yard gain.
He
but
got something out of nothing. Yeah,
he made a positive gain out of it. But it was really funny because he just stopped and kind of sold it. It's not like he popped up oh man, I screwed up, started walking backwards or anything like that. He just sort of stopped and kind of sold it it's okay, right? I thought that was really funny. So I thought his acting was quite good there. I enjoyed that.
That was definitely a missed call. When I was coaching, I would coach my guys. If you do something like that, I coach them to go in motion.
Yeah. Just pretend like that was that was on purpose.
Yeah, pretend that was on purpose. But I mean, he's obviously getting the pitch there. So I'm not sure how much he could have done it, but I mean, the fact that he just kind of stood there and sold it.
Yeah.
I mean, and the refs had a sketchy game. There were some plays there where you're like, what are they doing? But that was one that benefited the Bears, obviously.
There were, everybody wants to talk about the ones that hurt them, but they went both ways a little bit. Yeah. There was a couple where the Packers probably could have complained a little bit more. The little late hit out on the end of the Caleb run, and Matt LaFleur lost his mind.
Yeah.
One, you can't do that to a quarterback, and it's nice that we're finally getting we're finally seeing the Bears have a quarterback that'll get a call, because they never called anything on Justin Fields, right? It seemed like you could just mug him back there and hit him on the head, and they'd never call anything. Does seem like they're going to protect Caleb a little bit more, but there was a late hit 2 plays before that, and they didn't get called, and so to me it was a little bit of
makeup.
That was a makeup call. Yeah. You tried it again, this time on a quarterback, you're not going to get away with that. So LaFleur can bitch and moan on the sidelines, but that was a makeup call. My hot bowl actually goes to Caleb in the run game. I expect him to be able to deliver in the passing game. I know that he's a good athlete and that he can get those yards from time to time, but there was a concerted effort for him to be able to do this. And then he, stuck his foot in the ground and scrambled a couple times with authority when the middle of the field opened up, where the pass rush went around him and he saw a lane and he just went for it. Now, he didn't do that to the exclusion of keeping his eyes down the field. Somebody pointed out, I think it might've been Tim Jenkins. I'm sorry about if the credit's wrong, but same thing happened. The middle of the field had opened up, but he saw Cole Kmet on that little crosser and dropped a beautiful pass in there. So it's not like he didn't keep his eyes downfield, but he did take a few of those runs that were available to him. And I think if you add that threat, that's only for the better. It's going to help your passing game too. I know he wants to be a passer. I know that that's how he wants to make his living. But right now, you do have that athletic ability. Make it easier on yourself. Use it.
I saw someone else again. I can't remember who it was. It was one of those guys that breaks down quarterback play. I forget who tweeted it out. I think I may have retweeted it, so it may be on my timeline. But they were talking about on there how, prior to this game, Caleb's in the pocket. He would try and get through all his progressions, and he would stay there stubbornly sometimes in the pocket trying to get through them. Sometimes there's nothing past 3. Like you go through your progressions 1, 2, 3. You got to go. You either got to go or you got to get rid of the ball. And they said that, they're watching some of the film, previous, and he would hang in there a little too long, which he has. Some of the sacks he's taken have been on him. Sometimes there's just nowhere to go with the football. And hopefully as Thomas Brown's offense evolves here a little bit, we'll kind of see more concepts that kind of, some more mesh stuff, some more rub route stuff, something to kind of scheme guys open. And that's what I want to see out of them. But yeah, Caleb knowing when to go, because he's a good athlete. He's shifty, he's elusive, he's fast. Take advantage of it. That's like stealing. If you're out there and there's no one around you, especially if they play man against you, take off, steal those yards when you can.
And if you have an undisciplined pass rush,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a lot of time. Like the way that teams started to play Justin Fields was that they would play a lot of zone because they wanted to be able to watch him so that they could corral him. But most of it to me was the pass rush was disciplined.
Yeah.
They weren't giving him the outlets. They were trying to push the pocket from the front. When you saw a few times yesterday, it just opened up. And when the C opens up and there's not a spy and they're running down with your receivers and man, you've got 10 yards in front of you of green grass, go. Just take it. Like you said, it's stealing. It's easy money. Sometimes you just got to take the easy money. That's all it is. Turn it around. Cold bowl of porridge. What do you got?
I hate going with this guy because he's a good football player, but Montez Sweat, he had one assisted tackle. That's it, right? He is getting paid the buku bucks. He's your guy that you're counting on. Look, you can't do it all yourself, right? But sometimes those guys got to do it all themselves. They got to take it upon themselves and they got to make a play. And yesterday was a time where Jordan Love had way too much time sitting back there. We talk about he only got blitzed 3 times, which part of that's on Flus. Also there were not a lot of games being run up front to try and shake guys loose. But Montez Sweat, I'm watching him. Maybe he's got a little lingering injury issue. Maybe that's possible because he did miss last week. He had the shin, he had the ankle. Maybe that's there, but I expect more out of Montez Sweat at this point in the season.
Packers have a really good offensive line.
They do.
They have they've been playing together for a minute, right? They've got that continuity. They've got talent. They've got good development in that system. That's just something that they do. And it allows the quarterback to look better than if you were in an average offensive line or if you're in a bad offensive line. Just is what it is, right? You got all day and you can sit back there. You can reset. You can, sit on the back foot and power the ball or whatever the hell Brady was talking about. Like, yeah, you can do that. Like, I've watched Jordan Love be able to sit back there and reset multiple times and be able to comfortably fire. How many times have we been able to watch Caleb Williams do that this year? Not very often, right? So I think part of it is just like that's what the Packers do really well. And so what are you going to do as the defensive coordinator that you got to give him his props. He's a good defensive coordinator. What are you going to do to attack their strength? What are you going to do to try to even the game? And I agree that you hope that Montez Sweat, given the contract and given what they're expecting out of him, can make that difference. You hope he can be Trey Hendrickson, right? Like you saw with the Bengals last night, where he was causing a lot of trouble there. But you also have to give your guys some help. So yes, Cole Bull, I agree with you. He does need to start to earn it a little bit. But I also think, you gotta get a little help from the scheme sometimes too.
I want to go back to Vic Fangio a little bit, the Vic Fangio era when he had Khalil Mack, right? Mm-hmm. There were several sacks that Mack had where were schemed up sacks, where it was they ran a game to get him into a favorable matchup. And of course, he won his one-on-one. Other times, Mac he's a monster, so he just did his own thing. But help your guys out, get them some confidence. It's kind of like you hear about it on offense. You want to give your quarterback some easy plays to get the confidence built. If you could scheme up Mac for a hit on a quarterback early, that gets the juices flowing, or Sweat, I should say. Get your guys going with those schemed up looks, stunts, twists, picks. You can do something there. Walk a guy up right next to him, make the defense commit to an extra guy there. There's things you can do as a coordinator, and Flus just ain't doing it a lot.
Yeah, bluff the AA blitz every once in a while, or bring it, right? Like, I mean, for those of you that want to see what pretty creative defensive play calling looks like, you're in luck. The Bears have it coming to Soldier Field this weekend. Yeah. Wait until you see what Brian Flores does. Oh boy, that's gonna be interesting. Hopefully everybody's healthy and ready for that one. All right, for my cold bowl, I'm giving it to anybody that was in coverage on Christian Watson. What in the world was that all about? Like that offense was half Christian Watson yesterday. Big plays. He chucked it up into double coverage, and you allow that to come down. Jalen fell down on that giant play. That's too much. That's too much productivity from Christian Watson, a guy that a lot of Bears fans, a lot of draft Nick type Bears fans really wanted. Coming out in I think that would have been Poles' first draft, if I remember correctly. A lot of people like Christian Watson coming out. He's had trouble with the injury bug a little bit. He's a good football player, but he's not, whatever it was, 150 yards good against a really strong secondary. And particularly when you've got your number one corner on him, you can't give that up. You can't give up whatever that was with Gordon and Hicks. Throw it deep into double coverage. That was a prayer. That's being very kind to call it a 50-50 ball. That's an 85% time the defense is going to make a play or at least a pass breakup, and he comes down with it. Like, just unacceptable. So my cold bowl goes to anybody that was covering Christian Watson.
I mean, that was a bad throw by Jordan Love. Like, why?
It wasn't good. It was a bad decision. They had a wide open tight end right in front of him.
Yeah. Why throw in the double coverage? I mean, it worked out for him. Good job. And then the play with the other one with Jalen Johnson falling, he was pretty pissed at himself. He beat himself up pretty good over that. He stayed on the field a lot after the game. He just kind of took it in, and he was just really, really down on himself. And he talked about it in his presser a little bit as well. So, it doesn't happen often with Jalen Johnson, but yeah, this was a rough one for Watson. He was open everywhere. I mean, then when he wasn't open, he was just it was just there for him. And then let's real quick, that play. Flus challenged it, right? And he got ripped for challenging it. I don't think I would have challenged it, but seeing it, the replay, I can understand why he threw that flag. The tip of that ball seemed like it did touch, and then the second replay kind of showed the hand.
Here, I saw people, people on our team question it right away too, right? It's people who were like, another stupid challenge by Flus. I would have challenged it too. And here. Why? It's a giant play in a huge moment. And you see it maybe once, or maybe your guy in the booth sees it once, and the ball moves. Like it's one of those, hey, you know what? The risk is worth it right here.
Yeah.
Because the reward is they come back and we don't know what a catch is. No one knows what a catch. I haven't watched football my whole life. I don't know what a catch is. I'll watch them. I'll be like, I'm pretty sure that's a catch. They come down. No, he didn't establish this and that and whatever. It's like, oh, okay, whatever, fine. Why would that there's so much value in getting that was a giant play, right? In a huge moment late in the game. So if you somehow win that challenge, that's a huge swing.
That changes the game. Yeah,
it changes the game, right? So actually, in my opinion. That is when you say, I'm rolling the dice, maybe I don't win this, but if I somehow do, it's a huge swing.
And plus the tip of the ball was there. It was on the turf.
It did move.
It's hard to tell if the hand
moved.
The hand wasn't under the tip because the tip was there.
Right.
And someone's going to clip this up out of context. We're going to sound like jackass.
Yeah. We're just talking about the tip here, but it did move. The hand moved.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on from that conversation before we give more audio. Let's talk about the just right.
Just right. I'm going to go with the guy that I probably could have put this in the hot category because
Okay.
I literally was expecting nothing from this guy when he came in for Ryan Bates when he left the field. Jay Curran comes in and playing some guard for you this week, and I'm watching the film and I'm like, man, he's not bad. I mean, I'm not saying he's good, but the bar I had for Jay Curran, based on watching him play a little bit, I was expecting him to get blown up on a regular basis here, but he was solid. He came in for Ryan Bates when Bates left with a concussion. I don't want to see Curran out there again next week, but I do think he's a little better at guard than he is at tackle. He just doesn't seem to have the nimble feet to be out there at tackle. So if you're forced to scheme around him at guard, I think you'll be okay. But I got to hand it to Jay Curran coming in a spot that he doesn't normally play. He did okay.
Yeah, you got to just know that these giant guys that you're plugging in at guard here to try to get you through the season, these are not nimble individuals that you should be asking to pull. So our good friend Matt Pryor, please don't ask him to pull anymore. It's just like, it's asking a bull. Like, it's just like, please, no. Like, he's not quick enough. Like, there is a little bit of a skill set there with a guard that can get out and pull, or like the rare center like Kelsey that could get out and pull and be a weapon. A giant guy that's playing guard that's just kind of a rock sitting there. It's not happening, especially a long pull. Like, I'm sorry, that play that Swift got blown up was Pryor pulling out to the left, and he just sort of like dipped his head when he saw the guy running around him, like, oh, and I thought that is not understanding what your guard can and can't do. Like, you cannot ask him to have a long pull there, like a trap pull where it's just like getting down on a defensive tackle. Sure, fine, but like, please don't ask him to long pull. I'm sorry, it was just. I'm dying as a former interior offensive lineman. I'm dying at this giant guard that they asked to do a long pull.
As I'm watching that play happen and Pryor just kind of whiff, I'm like, I was thinking, yeah, JB is going to want to talk about this play in our show because that was just, I mean, he was coming. Obviously, he plays on the right side. They asked him to go to the left edge and do a kick out block there. Like, dude, that Matt Pryor is a big, 6'6", 6'7", 320. They'd list him as. I think he's more than 320.
Right.
He's not making that pull. Like, if you're like I said, if you're going to let him pull a nice quick power around the center, I'm fine with that. Let him get out on a screen to have his big body in the way. Not you must make this kick out block or this play is blown up. That's not a good
it's decision. So bad. It was so ridiculous. I mean, I know that like 2% of the football watching world would find the humor in it like I did, but it was it was like, no, you can't ask him to do that. Okay. My just right is for our guy Thomas Brown, and specifically how he used the wide receivers. Yeah. This was how I expected the wide receivers to be used. I mean, I have to go back and maybe watch the L22 to really understand it, but it felt like how the guys were getting their targets seemed to make a lot of sense to me. They were running routes that I would expect each of them. And that includes Keenan Allen. That includes Rome Odunze. That includes DJ Moore. All of them seemed like they were running what fit their skill set. And so it was very nice to see that. Unfortunately, it's week 11 or whatever the heck it is. Like at week 10, like it's a little late in the game to finally get that figured out. But new guy, his first time with the reins, I was happy to see that he saw what we saw coming into the year.
You said something a little early I want to ask you about. You mentioned Rome Odunze as kind of that wide receiver 1A, 1B with DJ Moore. Do you think that's how the Bears view him? I mean, he had 10 targets, which I think was the most. He is leading the Bears in receiving yards so far. Do you think he is at that place now as a professional where they look at him as like he's their guy? Or do you think it's still they're relying on him to kind of work off DJ Moore here?
I thought going into the bye that they were going to look at the tape and they were going to see just how consistently he was getting open, because that's what you see on the tape. I mean, the thing is, we don't know what the play call is specifically. I mean, you can kind of and I'm not the biggest X's and O's expert, you know that. But you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. You can get a sense of like where, especially like just where Caleb's head is at, like what the first thing in his progression is. You can get a sense of what's happening, but you can also see like where things are winning consistently and not. And to me, the tape just screams out that Rome Odunze is the guy that's getting open, and he's the guy that's getting open consistently and on the routes that are going to be big winners. And so I thought they would go into the bye and they would say, okay, we got through the first X number of weeks. Now let's go back and look at the tape. Hey, here, let's reestablish the pecking order here. And so when they came out of the bye and it didn't really happen, but it kind of like you see it maybe the last couple games where he did have enough yardage to kind of to take the lead at the sad lead that is the Bears receiving competition right now.
That race to 1,000 seems kind of like it's not happening.
The race to 1,000, which might go into next year. Yeah, I think it's getting there. I think Thomas Brown is the guy that will finally follow that.
Yeah, I like Rome. I mean, his coming out of college, his that route chart, that reception perception thing, everything was green. He was just good at running all of the routes. He had all the route tree down. There is nothing where he was bad at in college coming out. So I'm like, man, you put that in the mix with with Keenan. Obviously, is still look, Keenan Allen is not what he was, obviously, but he has great hands. He can still knows how to work in his zone. Like you said, you got to find when to use him. Last week he's trying to beat a guy one-on-one, like in a man. He's not beating man, against certain guys. Some guys just too shifty, especially with the way those routes were designed last week, where it wasn't a two-way go. Like there was too much congestion. Where even if Keenan did beat his guy, he's going to beat his guy and he's going to bring it to another defender that's close to the area because that's how the routes they're too close. So more spacing. We saw Thomas Brown condense his package a little bit, letting the guys have a little more room to work. I'm excited for Thomas Brown moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you've brought it up before. You basically need to use Keenan Allen like a U tight end, a move tight end, and have him run those kinds of routes. And that can be really useful in the early downs of staying on schedule, right? Where he's kind of your outlet. He's someone who's going to get you 5-6 yards on first down and set you up for an advantageous second down. Or he's a guy that can move the sticks on third and short, right? Like, so those are the things that you can use him for. It's still very useful. You just have to know that that's the mentality of what you're using him. And Rome, like, go get it. Like, throw it up to him. Let him go make a play. I would have, that back shoulder play is a great example. Also, like, man, you can run him across the field and he can run away from a defender. Whoa, what a concept. Like, just a little bit of that. Let's see a little bit more of that. Let's open up what Rome can do. Like you said, everything was green on the route chart. He can run these things. So let's see it. Before we get out of here, anything that you want to end with? I have one note that I just wanted to talk about.
I bring it. What do you got?
So I just, when you go back and you're like, that was the offense really that good? Those numbers are fine. But what are you guys talking about? Like 230 yards. It's still kind of boring. Didn't have a touchdown pass. You just kind of like can feel a little down about it. The Bears had 7 possessions yesterday. That was it. Normally in a game, you're going to have 11 or 12. This was one of those games where the ball didn't hit the ground much. There was a efficiency on both sides, which is obviously bad for the Bears defense, but there was efficiency on both sides. So that clock just kept running. So normally you get 11, 12 possessions on each side. And if you think about, if they were able to do that offensively with 7 possessions, add another 40, 50% to those numbers. And now you're talking about a 300-yard game. You're talking about maybe Rome having 100 yards. Like, there were 28 possessions in that game last night between the Chargers and the Bengals. I mean, that's a lot of possessions, but that thing just went back and forth, and there was all these, they had a lot more explosive plays, but still, like, there was a ton possessions in that. Just an average number of possessions in this game makes these numbers pretty impressive. So from an efficiency standpoint on offense, I thought it was actually really good. on defense, really bad.
Yeah.
Like it's even worse than you think. You look at the game, the score, and you look at these stats, and you're like, is it? And it's like it was just a weird game where the clock just kept running and they just kept extending drives. So I'm really curious. I want to see if this can continue against Minnesota. I want to see if you get what this looks like for more drives. And just, I went back and I looked at all of the games. And the Bears have had 12, 13, 12, 10, 12, 10, 11, 11, 11 drives before this game. And then this game, they come in, they only get 7. So, when things are clicking, you want to see more drives. So that's my thing. And I the what it reminded me of was last year against the Packers. And I went back and looked it up. And it was the same thing. 7 drives for each team last year in that last game. It was a weird game. And so it just doesn't happen much where you get that kind of compression. But I would just say that gives me even more hope, is that they're gonna show out even more once they have that full complement in a normal game.
Very methodical offense, very methodical pacing. The way he kind of stuck to the run, and he was committed to that stuff. And again, as I'm watching the rewatch, like during the game, I did not like some of those play calls I was seeing to Swift, some of the up the middle stuff. But on the rewatch, I'm like, well, they're successful. He's getting 3 yards a pop every now and then. A pop hits a 4-yarder. He was efficient. He was make sure they weren't getting any negative plays, which is kind of what we saw happen in Waldron's time calling the plays, was they would get behind the sticks, right? So he's running the ball here a little bit. You talk about the Packers' efficiency; they averaged 8.5 yards per play. The Bears were methodical. The Bears were 3 for 3 on 4th downs. They were 9 for 16 on 3rd downs. They were just moving the ball. They were just chipping away, and explosive plays. I mean, if some of those, Swift had the one nice one. There was a nice deep one to Cole Kmet, but if some of those plays kind of hit, you break a tackle here, break a tackle there. Now your guy makes a play. I mean, that's what you want. If you're going to get the ball to your playmaker's hands, you want some explosives. So if some of those explosives tick up a little bit here, and they get to have a chance to run a little more drives here, it's gonna be pretty good. I mean, Caleb's got an outside shot still at the 38-38, the Eric Kramer record. He's got to put some big numbers here together.
The yardage record's still alive, not dead.
It's alive. The 4,000, I don't think that's going to happen. That's just
it's close.
The 38-38. I mean, that's a little more there, but I'm still thinking if he can get 35, if we get 35 here out of him out of a rookie season, that's good.
He'll need to get a couple 300-yard games here, and I do think that the Vikings are an interesting team. They're a lot better than I thought they were, and obviously we'll get to talk about them next week. But they've been giving up some decent passing games, so that this should be something that get your blitz beaters ready.
Caleb was good against the blitz against the Packers,
right? Get them ready because they're coming, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think what to watch for against the Vikings. But you can put some yards up on them. They'll give them up. So, all right, we'll take a few questions here on YouTube before we get out of here for good, but we'll end it here on the podcast. If you ever want to join us on YouTube every Monday after the game, 6:00 Central. But thanks for joining us on the podcast, and until next time, bear down. All right, Lester, I saw you smirk. I assume you saw a comment that you liked.
There's a few. Let's start with our guy Axel here. He's still frustrated. Still, his children learned some new words. Any questions of Sandy, please send help or he'll start drinking Malort. First off, you do not want to drink Malort.
You don't have to drink Malort.
Malort, stay away. I know it's a Chicago thing. There is no good to ever come out of anyone drinking a shot of Malort. Ever.
Wasn't Axel going to send us like the European version of Malort or something like that?
Maybe something like that.
Yeah, we gotta get it. Is Cloudy making trouble in the comments again?
Probably.
Yeah, that's generally what he does. I saw this too. Okay. I like this one. This just needs to be framed.
Yeah. I keep thinking back to your after the season show, and every single thing you predicted about Flus has come true. That's of course from our friend Chris Armstrong. And yeah, we wanted Flus gone, right? I mean, we were adamant about it. I mean, as most Bears fans were, they're like, look, that's it. You get a chance to get your guy. you got to make a move. You're going to get Caleb. That was in the works. Fresh start. Let's go. And of course, it didn't happen. Everything we were worrying about, we're seeing it happen now here. He's going to have possibly a new offensive coordinator next year. I can't see the new guy keeping, this offensive staff in place. So yeah, it sucks.
Another one from Chris that I wanted to I saw this one during the show. 49ers fans are clearly spoiled fans, wanting Kyle Shanahan to get fired. If that happens, I would just be shocked. I would imagine that where would you go if you're Kyle Shanahan? Because you can go anywhere you want, really.
Yeah.
You could take any job. I wondered if he would want like the Dallas job or something like that. I don't know, but like a high profile type of fan base kind of thing. But because this is a historical rival for the Niners.
I think if Shanahan is fired, you may see some other franchises
just fire their guy to try to go after.
Yeah, we were going to keep our guy, but no, Kyle's out there. Let's go get him. So yeah, it's speaking of fan bases being ridiculous, there's some guy in my mentions. He's talking about how LaFleur, the Packers win despite LaFleur. Like there's this weird group of Packer fans. I live in Wisconsin, so every now and then I'll pop on the Wisconsin Sports Talk Radio. Oh. There's a weird part of Packer fandom that do not think LaFleur is a good coach. And it just blows me away because, as Bears fans, we kind of see it, and they've had so much success. Obviously, they're still searching for the ring with him, but like what? Again, if he is ever let go, everyone's lining up for that guy too.
He's really good.
He is.
He's really, really good. Yeah. No, that's insane. I don't think any of those guys get moved. That would be ridiculous. There's a lot of people that are like, what's it cost to trade for Sean McVay? Stop. Not a thing. Not a thing. No, it's not gonna happen. Just keep your sights on Ben Johnson. That's the name. That's the name. He's an offensive coordinator. He's going to want to be a head coach at some point with the right situation, the right guy you want to marry him with. If I was Ben Johnson and I get to see Caleb Williams twice this year, let's see how Caleb plays against the Lions. But if I were him, that's the kind of thing that I'd be pretty interested in.
It's funny to hear Lions fans say, "Oh, there's no way he'll want to go to a rival of the Lions." These guys don't care about that kind of stuff.
They don't care.
They don't care about that. Yeah.
No, not at all. And it's happened before.
Yes.
Anything else?
There's some talk about Vrabel. Apparently there's some buzz that Cloudy threw this out there. He's starting to see some early rumors from NFL media and a couple Bears beat guys talking about the Bears being interested in Mike Vrabel.
I think he goes to Vegas.
Yeah.
If Vegas, that makes sense to me because the Brady connection and all that. Well, I ran a fun run. Those of you that don't run, I probably laugh at the idea of a fun run on the lake shore. I'm in Chicago this week. It's the hotel background here. So my wife has a conference. Her organization puts on a little fun run. So it was right along the lake shore. So I ran out there before the show. I thought maybe we'd start late, but I was able to get back. So I am still in running clothes and I haven't ate dinner yet. So I'm going to cut it short and I'm going to get out of here.
Get out of here.
But I appreciate everybody. I think we were still balanced, right? But I'm a little irritated. That was close. I wanted that win. They got. Here's the thing. We didn't say in the show that maybe I wanted to, but I keep driving home how much I don't like Matt Eberflus every week. But that's two, like, signature game-winning drive. Like that you start to like build this resume that have been robbed from him. Yeah. And this whole first year is really, there's going to be a lot of good that we can take out of it, I'm sure, when we go back and we look at everything and kind of let the dust settle. But there's so much just meat on the bone. There's just so much that we didn't get to see, and we're going to have to wait an entire off season. We're going to have to wait an entire let's install a new offense. Let's get this. It's just such a wasted year, and this all was obvious and could have been avoided.
Everyone knew it except for the Bears.
Yep. Oh
They're
well.
always Bearsing it up every time.
But they could be Bengalsing it up. They could be Chargering it up, which both of those franchises tried to do that last night, right? Like, so there's other teams that do this too. You could be Brownsing it up, which is way worse than Bearsing it up. Wow, Brownsing it up is really bad. But yeah, we'll be back at it after this Vikings game. I'm already losing sleep over the pass rush. So we'll see what Flores has cooked up here, but we'll be back, and I'll be back in home environment for next week. We'll see you then.
Sounds good.
All right. See you guys.